Hey, this is Michael DDA here, and we're in the Join Us for Sabbath class. We're going through Deuteronomy 28 today, and we're going to do a quick review of Deuteronomy 27, which is what we covered last week. 27. We talked about what was going on Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. Remember, he's telling us that once we cross over the Jordan River, that we're going to come to Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. Remember, he told us that we were going to have certain of his men stand on one side of the mountain. Where was it? Right here. And we were going to have the other half of Israel's seed stand on the other side of the mountain. Remember, we were not talking about any ladies. There was no ladies that were going to be over here yet. Right now, this is one of the first things we're going to do as we are beginning to conquer this land. We're by ourselves. We're not even there yet. But when we cross over, it's going to be the men who cross over, the men who are going to war. Yes, they will have servants with them. They will have gear with them. But when they stand on the mountain, it's not going to be the servants. It's not going to be the gear who are going to be on those mountains. It's going to be the men of Israel. Maybe even just the elders of Israel. Those aren't huge mountains. Let's take a look at those mountains. I guess they're pretty large, really. Here they are. Here's the first one. Remember, we saw when we look at the map of Israel, we can find Jabbok River, we can find Sukkoth, and even with that is Ebal, Mount Ebal, and Mount Gerizim. Here they are. I can go a little bit closer on that. And I had a picture that I showed you last week. There it is, Mount Ebal, Mount Gerizim, with Shechem right in the middle. Let me see if I can find that picture. Here it is right here. There it is, Mount Ebal, Mount Gerizim, and Shechem right in the middle. Shechem, ancient city. This is the city that Jacob came to, thanks Carrie, when he first came back from Haran with his sons, his daughter, and his women. And, of course, his servants. He had many servants. Okay, so we talked then about the curses. And these, he says, cursed is the man who makes a carved or molded image. Cursed is he who treats his father or his mother with contempt, moves his neighbor's landmark, makes the blind to wander in the road, perverts justice to a stranger, the fatherless, or the widow, lies with his father's wife, lies with any kind of animal, lies with a sister. These are the things which he says he's going to be cursed. Well, this certainly is not an exclusive list, is it? There's many more things that if we do not do, or do that we're not supposed to do, that we're going to get cursed. The goal is to always do what we're supposed to do and not do what we're not supposed to do. Follow Yehovah's statutes and his judgments and his ordinances. Well, today we're going to find out what those curses will be. Father, give us discernment. Help us to see the subtleties of your word. Give us knowledge. Give us understanding, so that we can live and speak wisely with others. Let us learn to be a light shining in the darkness of this world to draw men to you. We love you so much. Well, I want to start by making a comparison. Remember last week? Oh, and I even hate to even consider this idea. I suggested that Deuteronomy might not be part of Torah. That perhaps Torah is actually the first 4 books. Remember, in the first 4 books, Yehovah was using primarily Bnei Israel. Speak to Bnei Israel and say to them. Now all of a sudden it's always Moses that's talking about Yehovah, your Elohim. Well, here is a very good example of that. Let's look at the first chapter or the first verse and look at this carefully. He says, now it shall come to pass, if you diligently obey the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim, to observe carefully the commandments which I command you today, that Yehovah, your Elohim, will set you high above the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you because you obey the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim. First of all, who is he talking to? The key words are the context clues. Is Yehovah, your Elohim. We understand now, hopefully, I understand it, and I think I've conveyed it to you well, that Yehovah, your Elohim, is always referring to Bnei Israel. But this is Moses speaking. Now, this is really interesting because I've said it once already, well, I've said it probably more than once, that these are, in Deuteronomy, kind of a review about what we have in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, especially Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. But there's changes. And this is why I say there's a problem with Deuteronomy. What do we do with this? We've seen it over and over and over again. It's just not crisp. Now, most people wouldn't even notice it because they don't know and haven't learned the subtleties. They haven't seen what it says in other places. Well, these curses that we're going to talk about today, by the way, this is the largest chapter in Deuteronomy. The largest chapter in Deuteronomy. We're almost done with Deuteronomy. But this is not the first time that Yehovah is going to tell us about the blessings and the curses. Do you remember we went through blessings and curses before? Let me show you. This is in 26. Now we're talking here about Yehovah, your Elohim. Look at what it says in 26, where he actually gives us the blessings and the curses. Let's read it carefully with understanding. You shall not make idols for yourself, neither carved images, nor a sacred pillar shall you rear up for yourselves. Remember, he's always talking to the Israel's seed. Nor shall you set up engraved stone in your land to bow down to it, for I, who's speaking here, I am Yehovah, your Elohim. This is Yehovah speaking. Listen, it goes on. You shall keep my Sabbaths. Reverence my sanctuary. I am Yehovah. Now, do we hear any of that type of language in Deuteronomy? The answer is no, we don't. We don't see that kind of language. He says, if you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and perform them. He says it down here kind of the same way. I think it's around 15. But if you do not obey me, again, he's talking about obeying me, not obeying Yehovah, your Elohim. I can talk like Moses talks. You shall obey Yehovah, your Elohim. But I can't talk like this, not speaking for the Father, can I? And I won't. But I will certainly go back and show people what Yehovah, the creator of all things, has to say. Well, look at how he finishes this chapter. These are the statutes and the judgments and laws which Yehovah made between himself and Israel's seed on Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses. By the hand of Moses. Yehovah did it by the hand of Moses. Moses is here speaking for Yehovah. These are Yehovah's words. Well, it's different in Deuteronomy. We're not seeing these same kinds of things. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. Well, I was peeking ahead. We're hopefully going to get through Deuteronomy 28 today. But I was peeking ahead, as I often do, and I want to show you what it says. It says, these are the words of the covenant which Yehovah commanded Moses to make with Bnei Israel in the land of Moab. Besides the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. Besides? So what is going on here? You know, we have to be careful. It says, they say besides. I had to do some research on that. It really says these are the covenants. These are the words of the covenant which Yehovah commanded Moses to make with Israel's seed in the land of Moab, separate from the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. So what's going on? Do we add to Yehovah's word? I don't think so. Can we take away from it what he said at Sinai? How come these two words don't agree? And isn't it interesting that Yehovah even here, or maybe this is Moses that's doing this here, these are the words of the covenant which Yehovah commanded Moses. Who's speaking? Who's speaking? Is this the Jews speaking? Who put together Deuteronomy anyway? They're in agreement that we're still speaking to Israel's seed. Well, you know, again, these are all challenges that we have to just keep in our minds. Know that there are problems, that there are contradictions between the first four books, the things that he gave us on Sinai, and the things that he's given us here in Deuteronomy in the land of Moab. Two different places. Now, I take great peace in knowing that these things that he's giving us in Deuteronomy are more for when we are in the land. Before Yehovah brings us into the land in these last days, he's going to raise up men just like Moses, a prophet like Moses. The prophet is the plural he. It's the 144,000 servants of Yehovah. I say 144,000, that's a New Testament idea. But there's a large group of servants whom Yehovah is raising up to represent him and to bring his people back to him in these last days. Somebody suggested that I start calling them, instead of the 144,000, the remnants. I kind of like that. What I'd really like to call them is the saints. Let me show you why I say that. Psalms 50. Write this down. You need to memorize this. Psalms 50, verse 5. Look at what he says. Gather to me my saints, who cut a covenant with me by slaughter. This is who they are. The 144,000. It's a New Testament number. I'm not going to go there. I use it. Why? Because I want to help people understand who we're talking about. But I like this term saints. Yehovah calls them saints. My saints. Let's find out what that word is, just out of curiosity. I'm surprised that I didn't really have it on there. Gather together to me those kara. Well, this is the word we want right here, kasid. Kind. Oh, yeah, that's right. I wrote an article. My kind. My kind. Yeah, there it is right there. That's so cool. Gather together to me, my saints. Oh, Father, look at how beautiful this is, you guys. I don't know if you're understanding what we're seeing here. Gather together to me, my kind. My kind. Those who are like me. They're the spiritual seed. Remember, Yehovah is spirit. He's spirit, Elohim. Gather together, my kind. Oh, that's so beautiful. My saints. See, we don't, saints. It's such a Christian word. You know, that's the problem. I would love to use that word. But it's been so polluted by the Catholic Church that it's hard to use. Dare I use it and simply remind you periodically of this particular verse? This is how I would like to talk about the 144,000. His saints. Gather to me my kind, the spiritual seed. Remember, Israel's seed, B'nai Israel, it's Israel's seed, the spiritual seed. The second born seed who cut, karat, a covenant, barith, with me by slaughter. How do we do that? The Passover lamb is what we're talking about. That is where we enter into the covenant with Yehovah. Abraham. Yeah, just like Abraham did, Carrie says. Well, so I want you to see that. I want you to understand that. Well, let's start Deuteronomy 28. We know this is Moses speaking. We know he's reiterating what was said back in Leviticus. I think, and I do the same thing. I'm going to tell you, it's hard to remember all the wonderful things that I've taught you. Sometimes I go back and listen to my videos and I say, wow, that was really good. I forgot about that. I need to go back and listen to myself. I need to go back and read those notes once again. Some of these papers that I put together, I read them again, I think, wow, that's dang good. But I forget. And I think, okay, this is my supposition, my theory. I think Moses forgot some things. I think he maybe got a little too overconfident and started saying some things that weren't true about us eating our tithe, us eating our firstborn of the herds. Please. No, these are things that are going to go to Yehovah and his representatives, the priests, the Levites. Well, look at what it says here. Now it shall come to pass if you, who's the you? We're talking to the Ezra, always talking to the Ezra. We know that because of the context clue, Yehovah, your Elohim. If you diligently obey. I like this. Look at what the word is for diligently obey. It's actually two words. It's Shema, Shema. Shema, Shema. Hear and obey. Diligently obey. It's kind of like Kodesh, Kodeshim. Same concept, repeating itself, most holy. Kodesh is holy. Kodesh, Kodeshim, two words, same word, right in a row, is most holy. Shema, hear and obey. Shema, Shema, diligently hearken. Diligently hear and obey. It's more than hearken. It's doing, isn't it? Well, isn't that the whole idea behind the blessings and the curses? Not about hearing them, it's about hearing them and doing them. Yeah, Moses, yeah, you know what? We tend to treat Moses like he can't do any wrong. But we always have to go back to Yehovah's word. And I'm going to tell you right here that if there's going to be a discrepancy in Deuteronomy versus Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, my default is always going to be to Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, not to Deuteronomy. Because those are the words that says, thus says Yehovah. Speak to Bnei Israel. My seed, Israel's seed. I'm going to default to that than something that Moses is saying without the authority where he's speaking in the first person for the Father. You follow what I'm saying? Now, the blessings and the curses that we're going to talk about today, they're really good. I didn't find any discrepancies. And we'll compare them, many of them, with what Yehovah has to say in Leviticus 26, where he gives his blessings and his curses. Remember, Moses is simply reiterating what he said. He's maybe embellishing them a little bit, but I don't think he's overstepping his boundaries by any means. Let's take a look at some of them, okay? I'm going to start from the beginning again, if you don't mind. Now it shall come to pass, if you diligently obey, hearken, obey. Well, it says diligently obey in that translation. That's good. I wonder why I put hearken over there. No, it's more than hearken. It's diligently obey. I like that translation in the New King James. If you diligently obey the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim, to observe carefully all his commandments, which I command you today, that Yehovah, your Elohim, will set you high above all nations of the earth. Well, again, even this is a little confusing because he says, which I command you here today. Well, today, he's in Moab. He's not in Sinai. He's in Moab. So, what? Now we only have to do the ones that he hearkens us here today? That is a little bit confusing, isn't it? And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you. Hear that? They're not only going to come upon us, they're going to overcome us. They're going to overtake us because you obey the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim. Blessed shall you be in the city. Blessed shall you be in the country. We can be in a city. It doesn't sound to me, remember, there's going to be cities of refuge. There's cities. If you have a house in the city that is a walled city, there's differences regarding the sale of that property in the city. If you sell it, a property in the city, and the year of Jubilee, it doesn't come back to you. So there's differences about living in the city. But he says, blessed shall you be in the city. Blessed shall you be in the country. I think living in the country, you almost have more chances to be blessed by Yehovah. I may be wrong, but that's my thought. Blessed shall be the fruit of your body. Whose body are we talking about? Your body. Yehovah, your Elohim. This is why they're all in yellow. I want you to understand we're talking about the men. The men are the ones who get the fruit. Their women help them do it. But whose fruit is it? It's the Ezra's fruit. Isn't it interesting? This is the first thing that he talks about. Blessed shall you be in the country. Blessed shall you be in the city. Blessed shall be the fruit of your body. Blessed shall be the fruit of your body, the produce of your ground, the increase of your, look at what it says, herds. I thought herds? The increase of your cattle? Well, aren't herds cattle? What are we talking about, herds? That doesn't make sense. Usually when we talk about herds, we're talking about cattle. But then it says the increase of your cattle. And I realized that doesn't say herds. And I was right. When I looked at it, the Hebrew, this is what I saw. It's the word behemah. Actually, this is the plural form of behemah, behamot. Thy behamot. They would say it a little bit differently. But that's in essence what it's saying. Thy behemoth. Thy four-footed animals. Now, you could put a colon like I did here. You could put a colon, because this is how Yehovah often speaks. We've seen it over and over and over again, haven't we? He'll say the big picture, and then he'll break it down. Break it on down. So now he breaks it down. The increase of your cattle. So here's the cattle. Ox, cow, and the offspring of your flocks. Remember flocks, zeon, we've seen it over and over and over again, is sheep and goats. So just because I was able to see this herds, I knew there was something wrong here, because they make it look like there's three things: herds, cattle, and flocks. But that can't be, because there's only cattle and flocks, because we know Torah. Blessed shall be your baskets and your kneading bowl. Isn't that interesting? Your basket and your kneading bowl. I guess a basket could be a basket full of apples. But I tend to think of baskets of eggs, of crops that are being brought into the kitchen table. That's what I think of when I think about baskets. Because he's also talking about your kneading bowl at the same time. So to me, it's almost talking about the things that the women are going to be using. Your basket, your kneading bowl. Could be servants that are doing it. But regardless, whose women are they? Whose baskets are they? Whose servants are they? The answer is your. Yehovah, your Elohim. It always goes back to the man. It's about him obeying the statutes and the judgments and the ordinances. Everybody else is going to obey him. Okay, now, I know I'm being redundant. I've highlighted every you're in here. And remember, we're not really even talking about your plural. We're talking about thy and thou and thine. Thee. Each man separately. He continues. Blessed shall you be when you come in, and blessed shall you be when you come out. Yehovah will cause your enemies who rise against you to be defeated before your face. Are the ladies doing the fighting? No, the men, the Ezra men, are the ones doing the fighting. Now, yes, their servants are going with them. Their enemies are certainly their wives' enemies, are certainly their servants' enemies. But Yehovah is not talking to them. When he saves us, he saves our families. He saves those that are covered by us. Just like he saved Noah from the flood. Yehovah will cause your enemies. Here, oh yeah, well, I wanted to react. Let me finish this. Yehovah will cause your enemies who rise up against you to be defeated before your face. They shall come out against you one way. They shall flee before you 7 ways. Well, I looked in here and I thought it said something about 1 chasing 1,000 to fly, or chasing 100, and 10 chasing 1,000, or something like that. And so I had to go looking for that. Where was that? And this is when I realized, oh yeah, this is the second time he's given us the blessings and the curses. This is when I realized that Moses, is simply reiterating what he's already told us. So I went on a little bit of a search, and here's what I found. This is Leviticus 26, 3 through 8. Let me read it to you. If you walk in my statutes, keep my commandments, perform them, then I will give you rain in its season. The land shall yield produce, the trees of the field shall yield their fruits. Your threshing floor shall last till the time, or your threshing shall last till the time of vintage. Vintage is when we pull off our wine, grapes, and start making wine. And the vintage shall last till the time of sowing. In other words, we've always got something to do. You shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in your land safely. I will give peace in the land. You shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. I will rid the land of evil beasts, and the sword will not go through your land. You will chase your enemies, and they shall fall by the sword before you. 5 of you shall chase 100. 5, not even 10. 5 will chase 100. And 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight. Oh my goodness. 5 chasing 100 is 1 to 20 odds. That's pretty severe odds. But 100 of you chasing 10,000, that's 100 to 1 odds. Can you imagine one man killing 100 men? That's what it's going to take to have 100 put 10,000 to flight. Remember, Abraham saved Lot from the 4 armies that came from the north. He, with the men born in his household, 318 men, took out 800,000. Well, that reminded me of yet another one. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I've already got it. 5 to 100 is 20. 100 to 10,000 is 100. 1 to 100. Exponential gain. Here's a couple ways they said it. This is BBE. 5 of you shall put to flight 100, and 100 of you shall put to flight 10,000, and all who are against you will be put to death by your sword. Here's just one man used by Yehovah can overcome a whole army. Check this out. Elisha got the king of Syria mad. Remember, the king of Syria, every time he moved his troops to a given spot, Elisha got a word from Yehovah and then told the king of Israel where the Syrian troops were going to be. And the king of Syria got really irritated with him and sent a whole army to destroy Elisha, to take him. Look what it says. And one of his servants said, "None, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet who is in Israel tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom." So he said, "Go and see where he is, that I might send and get him." And it was told him, saying, "Surely he is in Dothan." Dothan is just north of Samaria, about 10 miles. Therefore he sent horses and chariots and great army. Horses, chariots, and a great army. And there they came by night and surrounded the city. And when the servant of the man of Elohim rose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servants said to him, "Alas, my master, what shall we do? We're in big trouble." So he answered, he said, "Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." And Elisha prayed and said, "Yehovah, I pray, open his eyes that he may see." Then Yehovah opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. A spiritual army ready to fight for Elisha. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elisha prayed to Yehovah and said, "Strike this people, I pray, with blindness." And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. This is the kind of power that the 144,000 are going to have in these last days. Remember, even Yeshua said there are some coming after him who are going to do greater things than this. Now, whether he said that or not, I don't know. We just know what it says in the New Testament. Always take it with a grain of salt. Strike this people, I pray, with blindness. What if a troop of men comes to my house? Do I need to fear? No, I'm not going to fear. Because I know who I serve. I know that I'm in covenant with Yehovah. I know that I am his segula. And that he holds me close. Because I serve only him. Do you want to have that kind of strength, that kind of confidence in Yehovah? Then set your life so that you can come into covenant with him. Gather together, my saints, my kind to me. Those who have come into covenant by slaughter. Now flee from us 7 ways. He took these guys, marched them into Samaria, into the capital city of Israel, the whole army. And you know what he did with them? Most would guess, well, yeah, he killed them all, of course. No, he dined them and wined them and sent them back to Damascus. And you know what? The king of Syria never bothered him again. Isn't that interesting? What a great story. Verse 8. Yehovah will command the blessings on you. On you. In your storehouses and in all to which you set your hand. And he will bless you in the land which Yehovah, your Elohim, is giving you. Again, we know who it is because we get the land. The servant doesn't get the land. The ger doesn't get the land. The woman doesn't get the land. The children doesn't get the land. The Ezra gets the land. And Yehovah will establish you as a holy people. People. There's another word that is so hard to understand. So oftentimes we read people as what? Men, women, children. Isn't that what we do? Okay, but we got to get beyond that idea. Because it's the Ezra who are the holy people to himself. Yes, you're important to Yehovah if you're important, if you're one of their people. Yehovah will establish you as a holy people to himself, just as he swore to you, if you keep the commandments of Yehovah, your Elohim, and walk in his way. Then all the peoples of the earth shall see that you are called by my name, by the name of Yehovah, and they shall be afraid of you. This is what's going to happen in the last days. They're going to be afraid of us. Peoples. Which peoples are we talking about? Lady peoples? Men peoples. Again, we're talking about the men. Not talking about the children peoples. We're talking about men. These are the peoples of the earth. We're talking about men. The ones who are leading their families. Oh, I know, it's kind of a brain twister, isn't it? To kind of wrap our minds about, because we're so programmed in our conventional thinking, aren't we? But see, this is what it's all about, renewing our minds to the good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. The perfect will of Yehovah. We start to see things differently. Then all the peoples of the earth shall see that you are called by the name of Yehovah, and they shall be afraid of you. And Yehovah will grant you plenty of goods, the fruit of your body. Plenty of goods. I wonder if that should be a semicolon there. Plenty of goods. The fruit of your body is part of the goods, in other words. You follow what I'm saying? That'd be my guess. Plenty of goods. The fruit of your body, now he's breaking it down. The fruit of your body, the increase of your livestock. Now they got it right this time. Livestock. Here, I don't think no, I didn't put it in there. But yeah, with livestock, we're talking about the herds and the goats and the sheep. It was an all-encompassing word. And the produce of your ground in the land which Yehovah swore to your fathers to give you. And Yehovah will open to you his good treasure, the heavens, to give you rain in your land. Oh, is that his treasure? His treasure is in heaven. It's the rains that he sends down on us. His good treasure. To give the rain to your land in its season, and to bless the work of your hand. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And Yehovah will make you, who's the you? The Ezra, the head and not the tail. You shall be above only and not be beneath. If you heed the commandments of Yehovah, your Elohim, which I command you today, and be careful to observe them. Again, it's confusing to me because we're talking about two different times that these commandments are coming to us, aren't they? Today is in Moab. 40 years ago it was in Sinai. So you shall not turn aside from any of the words which I command you this day, to the right or the left, to go after other Elohim and serve them. Elohim. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face is the first commandment. I brought you out of the land of Egypt. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. This is what he expects. The Gentile who leaves the kingdom of his birth, then joins himself to Yehovah, and then at Passover enters into covenant with him, but then leaves Yehovah and starts serving other Elohim. He is the harlot. He is the whore. He was born in the land a new man, but he went back to his vomit. He went back to his wallow. Don't go back to your vomit. Leave that first and make yourself only Yehovah's. You shall not turn aside from any of the words which I command you this day, to the right or the left, to go after other Elohim to serve them. But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim. You know, I think people are confused. Look at what it says up here. It says, carefully observe all these commandments. We see the word commandment, and because we don't know the Hebrew word that goes with that word, we tend to think of the Ten Commandments. Is Yehovah talking about just his 10 commandments? Carrie says he's talking about 613. I disagree. I think 613 is nothing but Judaism. The first one in Judaism says a man shall have one wife. Is that what Yehovah says? Well, that tells us we got problems. So this 613, I never talk about 613. Have you ever heard me mention 613? I don't do it. There's ballpark, perhaps. Joe will answer your question a little bit later. I want to stay on topic. His commandments. Okay, we saw here. Where did it go? Here. Now he's talking about commandments and judgments. Back in 26. Where was that? Let me go. Leviticus 26. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments. Here he says, verse 15, but if you despise my statutes and abhor my judgments, so that you do not perform my commandments. Remember, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. Okay, I'm showing you this because I want you to see and overcome some of the thinking that you may have. Now, I don't know what verse I was on. It must be about 15. Yeah, there it is right here. But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of Yehovah your Elohim, to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes. Okay, are we going to obey his judgments also? Of course. Just because he didn't put them in here, don't be deceived. Don't do what the rest of the world says and says, oh, well, we only have to keep the 10 commandments, don't you know, to get the blessing. Well, the first commandment is what? You shall have no other Elohim besides me. He only gave it to us after we left our Egypt. There's a bigger picture, a greater understanding that we must get if we are ever going to get any of the blessings that we've just been talking about. But now ask yourself this. Here's verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of Yehovah your Elohim, to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Who's he talking to? Is he talking to the Gentiles? No, he's talking to Israel, who became his Ezra, which most of us have never done. They became his Ezra, and then they started leaving his commandments. Where does the world fit into all of this? Is Yehovah to blame for all the deaths in the world? Is Yehovah to blame for all the people that were killed in the antediluvian, or wiped out from the antediluvian world? Yeah, Carrie says they are. They reaped what they sowed. So these are the curses that are coming on us, those of us who have left. How much more is the world going to be destroyed? Yeah, Sheila says due to their decisions or lack of them. Yeah, that's why. That's why they were killed. That's why diseases come on the world today. Because we haven't learned to obey the voice of Yehovah, our Elohim. He says, if you will obey my statutes and my judgments, where is that? I think that's in Exodus. He's talking about if you will obey his statutes and judgments and ordinances, he will not put on you the diseases that he put on the Egyptians. we're going to see there's terrible diseases that are going to be put on the Egyptians. We are just starting the curses. 15 verses, 14 verses were the blessings. The whole rest of the chapter, 3 times more, are the curses. You don't want to be a part of these curses, believe me. It shall come to pass, if you do not obey the voice of Yehovah your Elohim, to observe carefully all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. Now we've got curses overtaking us. Cursed shall you be in the city. These are just the complete opposite of the first bunch of verses. Cursed shall you be in the city. Cursed shall you be in the country. Cursed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Isn't it interesting? They put the body after the basket and the kneading bowl. Remember, the basket and the kneading bowl was after the flocks even. Cursed shall be your basket and your kneading bowl. Cursed shall be the fruit of your body and the produce of your land, the increase of your cattle and your flocks. Oh, they got that just right, didn't they? Cattle and flocks. Cursed shall you be when you come in, and cursed shall you be when you go out. And Yehovah will send on you cursing and confusion and rebuke in all that you set your hand to, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly because of the wickedness of your doings, in which you have forsaken me. Well, here I am again reiterating what I said earlier. Keep in mind, Yehovah is not talking to any Gentiles in this chapter. He's talking to those Ezra men who left their Egypt, came into covenant, or will come into covenant with him before they receive our land. Remember, this is where most of Israel is right here, right now. They haven't been circumcised. And that's part of the reason why, when we finish this chapter, I want to go and at least do a few chapters of Joshua, because I want you to see that the first thing we did after we crossed over the Jordan was circumcised our men and came into covenant with Yehovah. So very important. Cursing, confusion, rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly because of the wickedness of your doings, in which you have forsaken me. These are for the people who have forsaken him. You know what? Here's a thought. Is it possible that there are worse consequences for the men who knew Yehovah, entered into covenant with Yehovah, and then forsook Yehovah, over the Gentile who never came into covenant with Yehovah? Could it be worse for those? Because of the wickedness of your doings, in which you have forsaken me. That's why I say, forsaken me. We were with them, and now we forsook him. How does this work for a woman? I was just thinking about my ex. She was with me, and then she forsook me. Can a woman forsake her covering? Well, actually, I gave her a bill of divorcement, so I guess she's clear in that respect. But there's going to be stuff to answer for, isn't there? All right, well, let's move on. Let's go to the next one, 21. Yehovah will make a plague cling to you until he has consumed you from the land which you are going to possess. Yehovah will make a plague cling to thee until he has consumed thee from the land which thou art going to possess. These are all the first person singular. Plague cling to you. These are all disease related destructions. Yehovah will strike you with consumption, with fever, with inflammation, with severe burning fever, with sword, with scorching, and with mildew. They shall pursue you until you perish. Consumption. I always hear about that word consumption. Whenever I'm watching a Western, they're talking about somebody who has consumption. What is consumption? I think it's some kind of a disease related to the lungs. That's what I've been able to find out. Tuberculosis, that's what you think, Sheila? That's interesting. Yeah, well, Sheila's also agreeing with what I said, that she thinks the Ezra who leaves will receive stronger discipline because he was held to higher accountability. I think that's really true. We have, by entering into covenant with Yehovah, this is why he says, the Toshab shall not eat it. The Ben Nakar shall not eat it. The hired servant shall not eat it. No, only the Ger gets to eat it. He can't have somebody come into covenant with him and shine a false light in the world. I think there's greater judgment. 23. And your heavens and thy heavens, which are over thy head, shall be bronze, and the earth which is under thee shall be iron. Heavens. You know, heavens is not the stars. It's not the place where the planets are, where the stars are. It is where the birds fly. That's the heavens that we're always talking about, the heavens and the earth. He's bringing rain from his heavens on those who will obey him. But for those who won't, the heavens shall be bronze. What's he saying? He's saying you're not going to get any water at all. You can't get water out of bronze. The earth which is under you shall be iron. It's pretty hard to make stuff grow in that kind of soil. Oh, this is heaven and earth related destructions. Yehovah will change the rain of thy land to powder and dust. All you're going to get on your land is powder and dust and not rain anymore. From the heavens it shall come down on you until you are destroyed. You got nothing to eat. Oh, you know, when Yehovah shakes the earth the first time, the people in the cities are going to be in such a terrible situation. At least if you're in the country, you can still grow your food. But those who are in the city have no place to grow their food, do they? But here we're talking about those who are even in the country. They're not going to get the rain that they need to grow their crops. Oh, wait till you see how bad it's going to get. Now he goes on. This is going to be destruction from our enemies. Yehovah will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. We were talking about 5 chasing 100. Now we're being defeated before our enemies. You shall go out one way against them and flee 7 ways. This was just the opposite when we were getting blessed before them. And you shall become troublesome to all the kingdoms of the earth. You shall become troublesome. I probably should have checked that out, because it sounds to me like they're becoming troublesome to us more than we're becoming troublesome to them. Your carcasses shall be food for all the birds of the air, the beasts of the earth, and no one shall frighten them away. They're eating us after we're destroyed. But he's going to send beasts against us also. 28. Yehovah will strike you with the boils of Egypt. The boils of Egypt. Right here I said, oh, this is so cool. This is talking about the plagues that came on Egypt. The boils of Egypt. Remember, Exodus, here it is. I don't know if you can read that. So Yehovah said to Moses and Aaron, take for yourself a handful of ashes from the furnace and let Moses scatter it toward the heavens in the sight of Pharaoh. And it will become a fine dust in the land of Egypt. And it will cause boils that break out in sores, blains. Those are the blains, the eruption of the boil. Ooh, so painful. On man and beast throughout the land of Egypt. Then they took ashes of the furnace. Well, you get the idea. These are the boils that he's going to put on us. These boils right here that we had in Egypt. Tumors. With scab. With itch. That you cannot be healed. Bummer. Remember when the Ark of the Covenant was taken by the Philistines and brought into Gath, Ashdod, and those cities. Remember what happened? Here, look at this. Here it is right here. No, actually it was tumors. Yeah. But the hand of Yehovah was heavy on the people of Ashdod, and he revenged them and struck them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territories. He says the same thing here. And the men who did not die were stricken with tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. It's going to happen again. This is what he's going to send on us. This is not going to be a pretty thing. I don't know about that. He didn't talk about the boils of Job, but I think a boil is a boil. So, yeah, I would guess it's the same kind of boils. 28. And Yehovah will strike you with madness and blindness and confusion of heart. Hear that? Madness and blindness and confusion of heart. Does that remind you of any of the particular plagues that fell on Egypt? How about the darkness? I guess I can't do this one as easily. Let me just read it to you. No, let's just go to it, since you can't see it. Oh, I guess I did get it to work. Here it is. Then Yehovah said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward the heavens, and there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, darkness which may be felt. Hear that? Darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched out his hand toward the heavens, and there was thick darkness in the land. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all Israel's seed had light in their dwellings. Darkness. Well, having darkness to that extent would that cause madness? Would that cause confusion of heart? I think it would. I think this may be exactly what we're talking about. And you know, it's so tempting to go to the revelation of John and talk about the seals and the trumpets and the plagues. And there is one of the plagues in there is a time of darkness on the earth. You know, in Yasher, it was during the darkness that fell on Egypt that Yehovah judged the hearts of the men of Israel. There were some who were there just because they knew it was the safest place to be. And there'll be some who will join us in the wilderness because they are smart enough to know that it's the safe bet. But what they don't understand is that Yehovah knows their hearts. And it was during this darkness in Egypt that Yehovah killed the men who didn't have a heart to serve him. And he did it in the darkness so that Egypt wouldn't see that we were burying our dead, that they would be ignorant of it. I think that's what Yom Kippurim is going to be like, that last Yom Kippurim in the wilderness, the Day of Coverings. Some are going to be covered and taken into the millennial kingdom alive. Some are going to die on that day. And I got a hunch it's going to be a day of darkness. 29. You shall grope at noonday. And we're still talking about the darkness. You shall grope at noonday, as a blind man gropes in darkness. You shall not prosper in your ways. You shall be only oppressed and plundered continually, and no one shall save you. How do you defend yourself in darkness? If your enemy has light and you have only darkness, how can you possibly? It'd be like what we were just talking about with the Syrians that came down to Elisha. How do you defend yourself? You're helpless. Confusion, madness. Well, it gets worse. This doesn't get better. We're only to chapter 30. The first third. He says, you shall betroth a woman, but another man shall lie with her. You shall build a house, but you shall not dwell in it. You shall plant a vineyard, but shall not gather the grapes. Here's a thought. Are these the women, houses, vineyards that will come to the hands of the remnant in the last days? I call them the remnant, the saints, the sons, the seed in the last days. Deuteronomy 20 says this, and I thought it's talking about the women, the house, and the plants, or the vineyard. It says, also, what man is there who has planted a vineyard and has not eaten of it? These are the rules regarding men going to war. Let him go and return to his house. Yehovah wants the man who has taken a woman, the man who has taken a house, the man who has planted a vineyard to reap the reward. Also, what man is there who has planted a vineyard and has not eaten of it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man eat it. What man is there who has betrothed a woman and has not married her? Let him go, return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man marry her. Yehovah is concerned about these kinds of things. Reaping what we sow is very important in our Father's kingdom, and a blessed man, one who obeys the Father's statutes and judgments and ordinances, is going to reap what he sows. The man who doesn't is going to have it stolen from him. That's why I say maybe it's going to fall into our hands, Israel's hands. I may be wrong. It may be enemies. Remember, Yehovah has an axe that he's going to wield against the wicked of the world. The Assyrian, it talks about the Assyrian in Isaiah 13-ish, maybe 14. He's the axe in the hand of him who wields it. Well, that could be the axe that's coming against us, that's taking our sons, our daughters, our women, and our vineyards. We're going to see they're going to take our sons and daughters here in just a moment. 31. Your ox shall be slaughtered before your eyes, but you shall not eat it. Now, here they use the word zavik. They translate it as the word zavik. Slaughtered. How come they don't do that all the rest of the places? Because they are corrupted. They don't want you to learn the truth. Your ox shall be slaughtered before your eyes, but you shall not eat it. Your donkey shall be violently taken away from you, and shall not be restored to you. Your sheep shall be given to your enemies. Your sheep, I'll bet you that's Zaon, because we're talking about the goats as well. Be given to your enemies, and you shall have no one to rescue them. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people, and your eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all day long, and there shall be no strength in your hand. We're going to see that happen again. Really, our sons and our daughters these days aren't our sons and daughters. They're the sons and daughters of the world because of the covenants that we've made. We're being destroyed. A nation whom you have not known shall eat the fruit of your land and the produce of your labor. There's some problems with that. Let me see what my problem is. A nation, the fruit of the land and the labor, your labor. You know, they put the fruit of the land and the produce. When we think produce, what are we thinking of? We're thinking vegetables. No, he's not talking that. He's talking about the fruit of your land and the fruit of your labor. This is what he's talking about. A nation whom you do not know. What nation is it? Is that the Assyrian nation? Is that the really the powers that are coming on this world? They're certainly not going to bother us. We're going to be in the wilderness. But the rest of the people who don't come to us, these are who we're talking about. Or those who leave us. There will be those who leave us. A nation who you have not known shall eat the fruit of your land and the fruit of your labor. And you shall be only oppressed and crushed continually. So you shall be driven mad because of the sight which your eyes see. Having the great arm of Yehovah fighting against you is enough to drive anyone mad. Wouldn't you agree? What do? Yehovah will strike you in the knees, on your legs with severe boils, which cannot be healed, and from the sole of your foot to the top of your head. Funny, they start with knees and legs, and then say from the sole of your foot to the top of your head. Maybe that's where it begins, huh? So Yehovah will bring you, and the king whom you set over you. You, remember, we were his, but we went and served other Elohim. That is the king who we have set over us. To the nation which neither you nor your fathers have known. And there you shall serve other Elohim. Now, I think there is a huge block in people's minds because of verses like this. When we talk about serve other Elohim, then it says wood and stone. I think we get the wrong idea. See, we want to make Elohim, God forbid, that we call Obama our Elohim. We want to make Elohim wood and stone. Don't we? Because if it's wood and stone, we're not bowing down to any wood or stone. We think we're safe. But I think there's a false image here, and I think it's demonstrated in the first and second commandments. What does he say? Let's go look at it. Because I think this is troublesome. Look what he says. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. Then the second commandment says, you shall not make for yourself carved images. Well, the Elohim and the carved images are two separate things, aren't they? They're not the same thing. But see, in our minds, because we don't want to acknowledge that we're serving other Elohim before Jehovah, just check your wallet. We get a false image. And this verse is kind of promoting that false image. Where was it? Feet. Here it is, right here. It says, Yehovah will bring, and there you shall serve other Elohim. Then they have this funny looking slash, wood and stone. Well, I thought I put a verse in there so that people could see. I don't have it. This is why you do a compare. You can look at these compares. I really would like to see the verse that I saw in there. Here, Geneva Bible says, even wood and stone. There you shall serve other Elohim. Okay? It's not saying that the other Elohim are wood and stone. It's saying that there you're going to serve other Elohim, and you're going to digress even further than that and serve wood and stone. Now, look at this. This is really interesting. Somebody put this on Facebook the other day. I put, there are more going on here. Well, let me show it to you first. It should come right up. I just put it on my site. Look, and here's an Egyptian god. I don't know how you say that. Ba. And here's the Oscar. This is the Oscar that we're giving people at the Oscars, the actors. We're promoting Babylonian ideas. Do you see that? Do you see the similarity between these two things? See, it's subtle. We don't see it sometimes because we're just not attuned to it. But I would say these are exactly the same thing. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about something in Daniel. How do I get back to where I wanted to go? Let's go here. Let's reduce this. It says there's more going on here. Why is Hollywood so obsessed with things Egyptian and Babylonian? Because the whole demonic system is run by Satan worshippers who are hell-bent on bringing back the wickedness of those evil empires. Now, think about the image that was set up by King Nebuchadnezzar. First we were serving the king. This is the king of Babylon, where he brought us. First we're serving the king, and then we're supposed to bow down to an idol, this great statue that was created, that we were supposed to bow down and worship, that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would not worship. I think this is what we're talking about. We'll see it again. Remember, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. And there you shall become an astonishment, and a proverb, and a byword among all the nations where Yehovah will drive you. We were serving the Elohim. We were in covenant with the Elohim, the creator of the universe. We, if it would have stayed with him, would have been unstoppable. But we left, and now we're a byword, a proverb, an astonishment. What is wrong with you guys? He goes on. Oh, actually, let me see what my verse says. Nothing. He goes on. You shall carry much seed out to the field, but gather little in, for the locust shall consume it. Does that sound like something that we've seen before? How about the locust plague that comes on Egypt? Here, I did this. 10. I put this together yesterday. 10 plagues of Egypt. Here it is, the locust that is going to come on Egypt. Copy. Let's add it to my notes here. Control V. There it is. Well, the locust was consuming all their crops. What the hail missed, the locust came and cleaned up. When we left, they had nothing. Their nation was consumed, and they were in big trouble. Going to be worse in the last days, because Yehovah is going to see that nobody lives. 39. You shall plant a vineyard and tend them, but you shall neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. You shall have olive trees throughout all your territory, but you shall not anoint yourself with oil, for your olives shall drop off. They won't mature. You shall beget sons and daughters, but they shall not be yours, for they shall go into captivity. The locust shall consume all your trees, and the produce of your lands. Now they've got the produce of your land. It says, the alien who is among you shall rise higher and higher above you, and you shall come down lower and lower. The alien who is among you. Who's the alien among you? Is alien the correct word? So you see that word, alien, you know you got to look it up. Is there aliens among us? How can an alien be among us? An alien would be like a Ben Nakar. Benakar don't even know us. No, what's the word they're talking about? Look, it's stranger. It's Ger. The Ger, who is among you, shall rise higher and higher above you. And you shall come down lower and lower. Remember, he hasn't come into the covenant of Yehovah yet, because he's still a Ger. He shall lend to you, and you shall not lend to him. He shall be the head, and you shall be the tail. So now, instead of leading Israel, we're being led by those who we're supposed to lead. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon you and pursue and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the voice of Yehovah your Elohim to keep his commandments, his statutes, which he commanded you. And they shall lay upon you, they. Who's the they? The they is the curses. The curses shall lay upon you for a sign and a wonder, and your descendant and on your descendants forever. Descendants. Descendants. Who are the descendants that we're talking about? Your descendants. Okay? Is he talking about lady descendants? Is he talking about male descendants? He's talking about seed. Okay? The word here is your zerah. And your zerah. Your seed. Okay? When we talk about zerah, we're talking about men. We're always talking about men. This is why B'nai Israel, they want to make it sons. I had a lady today. She tries to tell me, don't you know, look in any concordance and it says sons. Okay, but we don't understand that because I'm talking about seed. They don't get it. When we're talking about B'nai, sons, B'nai of Israel, B'nai of Heth, B'nai of Jacob, B'nai of Abraham, we're talking about generations of sons. That's what B'nai is. It's Seth, sons of Seth, all those. But I liked in that word seed because it makes it more clear who we're talking about. We're talking more about men. When we think about sons, we get confused because I have 2 sons. But when my sons have sons, they're still my sons. They're my seed. It's a continuation of the line. Now, we have natural continuations, as in the sons of Heth. We bought the land from the sons of Heth. Abraham did. Okay, he bought it from the seeds of Heth. Didn't buy it from Heth. Bought it from the seeds of Heth. The sons, the descendants of Heth. And so when we see this word descendants translated as zerah, seed, we should have that same understanding. You follow what I'm saying? These curses, they shall be upon you as a sign and a wonder, and on your descendants forever. Well, can we break that forever? I think we can. We can repent. We can repent. This chapter doesn't make it as clear as Leviticus 26, the actual blessings and the curses. Remember, this is the reiteration of the blessings and the curses. But in Leviticus 26, he makes it very clear, but if you will confess your sins and the sins of your fathers, see, we're breaking the curse. Because this one says to all generations. Okay, so then there's no hope? And to your generations forever? There's no hope that we can repent? That's what it would look like in here, but we've got to understand there's more to the story. He says, because you did not serve Yehovah, your Elohim, with joy and gladness of heart for the abundance of everything. Therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom Yehovah will send against you in hunger, in thirst, in nakedness, in need of everything. Hunger, thirst, nakedness, in need of everything. It reminded me of the verse when in the New Testament it says, "What shall we eat? What shall we drink? What shall we wear?" Isn't that exactly what we're talking about? And what does Yehovah say? Or actually Yeshua, quoting Yehovah, "Seek first the kingdom of Yehovah and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." Same things, hunger, thirst, nakedness, in need of everything. And he will put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed. And Yehovah will bring a nation against you from afar, from the ends of the earth, as swift as the eagles fly, a nation whose language you will not understand. You notice I started using a different color here. I think that this now is Israel coming on the world. Look at the words that it uses. A nation shall come up against you from afar, from the ends of the earth. They're coming from the ends of the earth. All over the earth. Swift as the eagle flies. Remember, they are the ones who overcome. An eagle flies over the destruction, over the storms of the earth. They can fly above those storms. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to be affected by those storms. A nation whose language you will not understand. You know what? What nation could that be? What language could that be? You know, there was a point where when Yehovah got fed up because we were all starting to come together and speak one language, he decided that he was going to separate the languages. Remember Babylon? Is it possible in these last days when he brings us back that he's going to give us a new language? Yeah, the Tower of Babel. Yeah. Do you think he's going to give us possibly a new language together? I think possibly even the original language. This sounds like the 144,000. What do we call them? The saints. Those who have entered into covenant with me by slaughter. I have often felt that Yehovah may return us to our original language in the last days. Subtle things in the word that lead me to understand that. But I could see him doing it. With all these different people coming to us, we got to be able to communicate with them in our camps, don't we? Does it make sense that he would give us the same language? I think it does. Well, then it says a nation of fierce countenance, which does not respect the elderly, nor show favor to the young. Well, does that sound like anybody you know? Look at Joel chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. This is the introduction of the 144,000. The saints. The Ezra. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Sound the alarm in my holy mountain. Let the inhabitants of the earth, inhabitants of the land tremble. A nation of fierce countenance. Let the inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yehovah is coming, for it is at hand, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Like the morning clouds spread over the mountains, a people come great and strong. Who are the people? Lady people? No, Ezra people. The people come great and strong, like the like of whom have never been, nor will there ever be any such after them, even for many successive generations. A nation of fierce countenance. They roar and people cower. They destroy everything in their wake. Remember when we came into Canaan after crossing the Jordan, we did not leave anybody alive. Everybody was to be killed. Men, women, children. Everybody. Because they didn't come to us. Oh, God's so unfair. No, he's not. Repent. Join yourself to Israel and then come into covenant with him. He's not fair. Ladies, do what you're meant to do. Serve your man. He's not unfair. And they, remember we're talking about the saints, shall eat the increase of your livestock, the produce of your land until you are destroyed. They shall not leave you grain, new wine, or oil, nor the increase of your cattle, nor the offspring of your flocks, until they have destroyed you. They shall besiege you in all your gates until your high and fortified walls in which you trust come down throughout all your land. And they shall besiege you in all your gates. Remember, it says they run on the gates, they run on the walls. They jump in through the windows like a thief in the night. This is the same chapter, Joel chapter 2. They shall besiege you at all your gates, the gates of hell, the gates of Belial, the gates of the wicked shall not prevail against Yehovah's people. They shall besiege you at all your gates throughout all your land, which Yehovah, your Elohim, has given you. You shall eat the fruit. You shall eat the fruit of your own body. Here's the wicked men. They're going to eat the fruit of their own body. Look what it says. The flesh of your sons and your daughters, whom Yehovah, your Elohim, has given you. You're going to eat them in the siege and in the desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you. Sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? It's going to get worse. Look what it says. The sensitive and very refined man. This is the good and gentle and good, the nice people of the earth. The sensitive and very refined man among you will be hostile towards his brother, towards the woman of his bosom, and toward the rest of his sons, not children, whom he leaves behind. So he shall not give any of them flesh of his sons whom he will eat, because he has nothing left in the siege and desperate strait, in which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. That's the gentle and refined man. Now he's going to talk about the tender and delicate woman among you, who would not venture to set her sole of her foot on the ground because of her delicateness and sensitivity. Ew. Will refuse to the husband, her man, of her bosom, and to her son and her daughter, her placenta, which comes out from between her feet, and her children, whom she bears. She's going to bear a child. She's going to eat the placenta, and then she's going to eat the child. For she will eat them secretly for lack of everything in the siege and the desperate straits in which your enemy shall distress you at all your gates. Oh, that is bad. '58. Oh, there's more than 58 verses in this chapter. Oh my goodness, 68 verses in this chapter. Shoot. There's almost 4 times more curses than there is the other. Sensitive, refined man. Okay, 58. If you do not carefully observe all the words of this Torah, which are written in this book, that you may fear this glorious and awesome name, Yehovah, your Elohim. Look at what they do. What is up with that? We sing Yehovah, your Elohim. How many times? Now it's like they're making Yehovah, your Elohim, his name. Is that his name? Is that the name that we're going to fear? No, the name that we're going to fear is Yehovah. This kind of thing just drives me crazy. Why is this all in caps? Are the translators trying to turn people away from Yehovah's name? I think that's it. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. Or are they just ignorant? No, I don't think they're ignorant. I think they know what his name is. I think the answer is the former, not the latter. It is their effort to hide the name of the true Elohim and substitute the name of the golden calf in his place. Well, isn't this what we do? Of course, the golden calf. Who's the golden calf? Yeshua. Yeah, let's forget about the name of Yehovah. We have people calling on the name of Yeshua. But what does it say? Joel chapter 2, the last verse of Joel chapter 2. Those who call on the name of Yehovah shall be saved. Then Yehovah will bring upon you and on your descendants, your seed. Look what it says. Extraordinary plagues, great and prolonged plagues, and serious and prolonged sicknesses. Moreover, he will bring on you all the diseases of Egypt. 15, not 12. There it is. And if you will diligently heed, let's see if I can make this. I bet I can. Yeah, there it is. And said, if you will diligently heed the voice of Yehovah, your Elohim. See, here's Yehovah speaking this. And do what is right in his sight. Give ear to his commandments. Keep his statutes. I will put none of the diseases on you which I have brought on the Egyptians. For I am Yehovah who heals thee. Moreover, he will bring upon you all the diseases of Egypt, of which you were afraid, and they will cling to you. And Yehovah will take away all the sicknesses and will afflict you with none of the terrible diseases of Egypt which you have known, but will lay them on those who hate you. I want to finish this chapter. I'm not going to discuss much. Verse 61. Also every sickness and every plague which is written in the book of Torah will Yehovah bring upon you until you are destroyed. You shall be few in number, whereas you were as the stars of the heavens. Thou shalt be few in number, because you would not obey the voice of Yehovah your Elohim. Is this chapter designed to instir in you the fear of Elohim or the respect for Elohim? After reading these things, is it about respect or fear? Fear, deadly fear. And it shall be that as Yehovah rejoices over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yehovah will rejoice over you to destroy you and bring you to nothing. And you shall be plucked from off the land which you go to possess. Then Yehovah will scatter you among the peoples, from one end of the earth to the other. And you shall serve other Elohim, which neither you nor your fathers have known. Well, here they go again. Wood and stone. Even wood and stone, I think we could say it like that. And among those nations you shall find no rest, nor shall the sole of your foot have a resting place. But there Yehovah will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and anguish of soul. Your life shall hang in doubt before you. You shall fear day and night and have no assurance of life. Fearing day and night, fearing every day that you're going to be destroyed, fearing every night that you're going to be destroyed. There's no rest for the wicked. In the morning you shall say, oh, that it were evening. And in the evening you will say, oh, that it were morning. Because of the fear. There it is, the fear, which terrifies your heart. Does that sound like respect for Yehovah? No, we're talking about the fear that terrifies your heart because you're going to be destroyed. And because of the sight of your eye, or because of the sight your eyes see. And Yehovah will take you back to Egypt in ships by the way which I said to you. You shall never see it again. And there you shall be offered for sale to your enemies as male and female servants, but no one will buy you. Now this is interesting. Look at what it says. There you, remember, we're going to say the you is who? The Ezra men. But here it says, you will be sold as male and female servants. What's up with that? Is it possible that the you, remember, your woman is you, but he's not talking to you, woman. He's talking to you, the head. But you are going to be sold as male and female slaves. Well, don't let me leave you without hope. Is there a way to repent? I'm going to go back to Leviticus 26 because I'm not going to end on a negative note. Here's what he says, the end of 26. But if they confess their iniquity, remember we were being cursed because even our fathers disobeyed Yehovah. But if they confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers and their unfaithfulness in which they were unfaithful to me, and that they also have walked contrary to me, confess it, that I have walked contrary to them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. If their uncircumcised hearts are humbled, they accept their guilt, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and my covenant with Isaac, my covenant with Abraham, I will remember. I think he's saying, I will remember them. and I will remember the land. And the land also shall be left empty by them, and I will enjoy its Sabbath while it lies desolate without them. They will accept their guilt, because they despise my statutes, or despise my judgments. Now here it's saying judgments, because they despise my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. Yet for all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, nor shall I abhor them to utterly destroy them and break my covenant with them, for I am Yehovah, your Elohim. So he goes on, the last verse says, these are the statutes and judgments and laws which Yehovah made between himself and Israel's seed on Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses. All right. Well, have a great day, and we will see you soon. Make sure you check out my videos. These videos are coming out really, really nice. I had 18 people listen to the last one, 43 listened to the one before that. So maybe we'll start getting a following. I've had 3 people that have, what do they call it, subscribed to my YouTube channel. So in other words, they want to hear when I have a new teaching, they want to hear it. Well, yay for them. Thank you. I appreciate you doing that and joining me. All right. Love you tons. See you guys later. Bye now.